So I've always been just a little bit confused about the Megami Tensei series. I don't know where it starts, I don't know where it ends, I don't know anything about the middle. Apparently there's a whole bunch of different branching universes and even universes within universes. So I just want to know where to start. I want to know if I can just jump in anywhere, if there's a definitive first game. No idea. So let's go. The history of Shin Megami Tensei in 12 minutes. I might have to watch more than just this. So if I don't get it all in just this video, then there's going to be more Shin Megami Tensei coming. At least there's going to be some Persona stuff coming, because that's really what got me started in all of this. I'm very interested in Persona. Never played a single Megami Tensei game or a Persona game. So let's jump into it from Eric Landon RPG.
The Megami Tensei series started all the way back in 1987.
It's a long time ago. That was before I was born.
Company Atlus, such as Koichi Okada,
I know Atlus. I like a lot of Atlus games.
Read a trilogy of novels called Digital Devil Story by Japanese author
So is that where I start?
Aya Nishitani. The books told the story of a young programmer named Akemi Nakajima who creates a demon summoning program. Accidentally, he unleashes Lucifer, and alongside his friend Yumiki Shirasagi, they go on to fix Nakajima's mistake by fighting Lucifer and his army of demons. Koichi Okada, alongside Genichiro Suzuki and his son Kazunari Suzuki, approached author Aya Nishitani with a proposal. They worked for the newly founded company Atlus and wanted to make their first video game. Having read the novels, they asked Nishitani if he will be interested in an adaptation of his first 3 novels into a role-playing game. The ideas behind its gameplay included navigation in first person, random battles played in turns also in first person, and one very important aspect that will revolutionize the RPG industry later on: demon recruitment. Players could enter negotiations with enemy demons to recruit them into their party. The idea was to train them, having them fight in battles, and then fuse them with other demons to get better demons. The name of the game will retain the title of the first novel, Digital Devil Story, and its subtitle as well, Megami Tensei, which means reincarnation of the goddess. Specifically, Okada and team wanted to base most of the events of their game on the first and third novels of the series. Both the game and the books included several controversial topics about religion, occultism, and different obscure philosophies.
Sounds like my kind of game, you know? I'm a Christian, so I kind of like all that kind of stuff, and I can really get into it.
Digital Devil Story was released on July.
I don't care if it's blasphemous. I don't care. If it's cool, if it's good story, then I don't care. I'm not like a super heavy Bible thumper. I don't think that's what it's about anyway. Shouldn't be afraid of all of the scary things.
Of 1987 for computer systems including the MSX. On September 11 of that same year, the game was ported to the Famicom. It would later enjoy other revisions on the Super Famicom and mobile devices, but not a single version has been released to date anywhere else in the world. Especially not in the West, since back then, religious topics in video games were often heavily censored. Despite the game,
I don't like that. I don't like when religious topics are censored, because I'm not offended by any of it. I know people who would be, and it's just like, man, I don't get it. You're not going to play it anyway.
Not being able to sell overseas, Digital Devil Story was a commercial success in Japan. Atlus soon prepared a sequel, but this time without any relation to the books of Nishitani. Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei 2 was released as an exclusive to the Famicom on April 16, 1990. It was even more commercially successful, and it would establish itself now as a newly born video game franchise, despite also having ports to the Super Famicom and mobile devices several years later.
It looks really cool, especially for the time. It definitely has the feel of that time.
No version of the game was ever released anywhere else. While the first 2 games were published by Namco in Japan, Atlus wanted to take care of their third game and publish it themselves. But because
do they have anything to do with each other? It seems like they don't when it comes to a story.
The previous title had deviated itself from the novels, even though it still retained several crucial elements. Okada and team wanted to reboot the series under a different name. The result was the removal of the term Digital Devil Story, and instead they added the name Shin.
This looks really cool. This looks like my kind of game that I'd play from that era. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Chrono Trigger.
Therefore,
a little more
Shin Megami
mature.
Tensei was born.
Okay.
Since their idea of a slight reboot while continuing the series was founded, Okada and team decided to remake the second digital Devil Story game, but incorporating new ideas. Once again, renowned artist Kazuma Kaneko took care of the character and demon designs, and sooner rather than later, the first Shin Megami Tensei game was born. It was released on October 30 of 1992 for the Super Famicom. Once more, however, the game's religious themes and dark philosophical ideas were no good for the West, and despite having several ports on different systems such as the PC Engine, the PlayStation and the Game Boy Advance, it wouldn't be localized until its port for iOS on 2014 in
That's insane that we didn't get it until it came to the iOS in 2014. Why that randomly?
Europe and North America. Too late actually, considering most fans outside Japan had already played the fan-translated versions done by Team Aeon Genesis.
Yeah, that's probably... Okay, so let me know down there in the comments which game I should really start with. Could I skip these first ones? I probably shouldn't though, right? They're like, are they actually good games? Or are they just leading up to the games that are actually good? Because if these are like, if the sequels to these or the later adaptations are direct sequels to these, I want to know. I want to know what games are connected to what and why.
Shin Megami Tensei was another commercially successful title in Japan, and so was its sequel released on March 18 of 1994.
I might have to watch an iceberg video about this.
Also for the Super Famicom, and also ported years later to several other platforms, all of them exclusive to Japan. So back in the mid-90s, Atlus was already resenting the fact that none of their games could be played outside their country. They wanted to start releasing some of their new games, as they thought their first several titles were already outdated, especially by the time the PlayStation era had a breakthrough in the video game industry. But because of both Nintendo's and Sony's strict policies back then, they still couldn't localize their Megami Tensei games. They tried their luck with a little spin-off called Jack Bros, an adventure game released on October of 19...
I know what this game is. I had no idea this was a Megami Tensei game. That's funny.
95, but for the Virtual Boy. That console being a huge commercial failure, Atlus then took a risk with yet another spin-off. Now finally for the...
There's only like, what, 30 games for the Virtual Boy?
PlayStation in the West. The game was simply called Persona. Released on September of...
What is Persona? Persona is like a story within Shin Megami Tensei?
1996, Kouji Okada and his team thought this could be the perfect gateway for the series in the West. Persona still had some controversial topics in its story, but by censoring certain topics, images, and issues, it complied with Sony's policies for a release overseas.
This looks really cool. This looks like a really cool concept. Maybe I do start with Persona and then just expand from there. Is that good? Do I do good with that?
For its localization, the game was retitled as Revelations Persona. Atlus of America thought using a prefix will help people recognize it was part of a series. 3 years later, a port on the Game Boy Color of yet another spin-off called The Demon Slayer was also released in the West with the Revelations prefix. Both games, however, weren't as successful as Atlus was expecting, especially Persona for having troublesome gameplay and outdated mechanics. Nevertheless, sales weren't really that low on it, which...
I don't care if it has outdated mechanics, though. I'll still play it. I play a lot of games with outdated mechanics.
Helped Atlus decide which of their two sequels...
Like, I still have fun with Sid Meier's Civilization 2 and 3.
...they will release. It was a game cut into 2 volumes, simply called Persona 2. The team decided Eternal Punishment was the part that will be more successful in the West and less controversial against Sony's policies. This game enjoyed more sales and was more successful.
Oh, this looks cool. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'll start at Persona. That sounds good to me.
Than its predecessor, but by then, most gamers outside Japan still didn't know what Shin Megami Tensei was. Only a handful of spin-offs had been released, and Atlus was still craving for a major release of their brand in the West. It wouldn't be until Sony's policies began opening up to more controversial subjects during the PlayStation 2 era that Atlus...
Yeah, let's go PlayStation 2. That's the best era in my opinion. That's the era that I go back to the most. Even not PC, separate from PS2, still PC in that era is the best.
Finally saw the opportunity they were looking for. Shin Megami Tensei 3 had been a big commercial success in Japan, and they thought it would be a great idea to localize it. The game even had a director's cut on the PS2 called the Maniacs version. Fortunately, that improved version was the one selected for localization. It was released in North America on October 12 of 2004 under the name Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. In Europe, a territory...
So is this where I start for Shin Megami Tensei at least? So I'll start with Persona just because it's older, and then I play this.
With less censorship policies, it was named Shin Megami Tensei Lucifer's Call. Atlus had finally achieved its goal. The game met critical acclaim worldwide.
It looks like a game that I very much am into on the PS2. Yep. Okay. I will play this definitely.
Obviously, especially in Japan.
This looks cool.
Overseas, the only criticism it had was its difficulty. It was too hard, but very rewarding at the same time.
Like, I play Dark Souls and even harder games than that.
If you want to know more, I'll leave a video at the end called 10 Things You Didn't Know About Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. Despite this, however, the game was a commercial success, and it allowed Atlus to continue releasing their series and spin-offs in the West. One such example was the release of Persona 3 on August 14, 2007 in North America. Atlus of America decided to keep the Shin Megami Tensei prefix on every title of the Mega 10 series released in the West.
Oh, Mega 10? That's what this whole thing is called? Mega 10 series? So this needs to be watched. The Mega 10 Iceberg Explained. Okay, I will save that to the watch later list. That's a long video, but I'll definitely get into it. Get some more context into this.
They will finally remove it from the Persona series with the enhanced port of Persona 4 Golden on the PS Vita. This
is where I heard about the Persona Shin Megami Tensei stuff, was around when Persona 4 came out.
Start general confusion in the West as if whether to consider Persona, which had already established itself as its own series, as part of the Shin Megami Tensei franchise. It also created a rift between fans that still stands strong today, unfortunately. Going back to the story, Shin Megami Tensei had been successful all these years, with the PlayStation 2 spearheading most of their releases. Still, Atlus had also worked with Nintendo for some of them, including 2 Pokemon clones called Digital Devil Children for the Game Boy Advance. The irony being that Mega 10 had pretty much popularized the creature capturing and training mechanic.
Nintendo, you going after Pal World? What about this, huh? What about this?
Years before Pokemon. Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey was released exclusively.
I heard about that recently. I forgot that was the game that everybody was talking about. That, like, Pokemon basically ripped off, and now they're going after games for ripping them off when Pokemon was a rip-off to start with.
At first for the Nintendo DS on October 8, 2009. Localized only to North
I didn't know this was a thing. I'm gonna have to look into that.
North America on March 23, 2010. Most of the European releases had to be published by other companies, as Atlus of America didn't have a branch in Europe yet. Anyway, while most of their games from the Mega 10 universe had been successful, including other spin-offs such as Digital Devil Saga and Devil Summoner on the PS2, the truth is they were nowhere near as successful in the West as other major RPG releases from other companies. Not even the initial release of Persona 4 on the PlayStation 2. Atlus eventually encountered several financial problems and nearly went bankrupt.
Yeah, Persona 4 came out and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I had a few friends that played it and then I forgot about it for years and years and years. And then Persona 5 came out on, what was it, PS3? And then it was all the rage again.
Twice. In 2010, they merged into Index Corporation but still retaining their brand name. Index Corporation will soon dissolve and Atlus will be left on their own once again. That is until October of 2013 when Sega bought the company. Atlus has been a subsidiary of Sega ever since. This gave them enough financial resources to continue with their series, especially their 4th game in the Shin Megami Tensei franchise. This was released on March 23 of 2013 in Japan, quickly localized on July 16 of the same year in North America, but it will take almost a year and a half for it to see the light in Europe.
I remember this. I remember people talking about this, and then it finally came to North America, and everybody was like, yes, finally! And then that was the last I heard about it.
October 30, 2014. It was a commercial success, and it spawned a direct sequel called Apocalypse on 2016, released also worldwide, also to a critical success. So these games were successful despite not having Koichi Okada and Kazuma Kaneko involved anymore, two masterminds who greatly developed most of their older games. Even so, Shin Megami Tensei finally achieved mainstream popularity in the West. As of the making of this video, today, Shin Megami Tensei 5 has been released exclusively on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah? Yeah, I know about this game. I never even really checked it out, but I want to, because this one seems really cool. This seems like it's the coolest one out of all of them, actually, the way the visual style is.
And that is the story of Shin Megami Tensei.
Yeah.
A series that went through several changes.
Dude, I don't know why I never dug into the Shin Megami Tensei or the Megaton Iceberg Explained series. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check it out. I'm gonna jump right into it, man. Pretty soon. I'm gonna start an RPG series on my gaming channel. Link down there in the description. I'm going through an action game phase right now, action adventure games. Right now I'm playing Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. So that should take over my life for a couple weeks. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications. See you in the next one.